Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, coming a little separate here, a little scheduling conflict once again. So we're bringing you our picks a little bit separately, but we are going to have best bets in this episode, as well as some player props up in a separate episode, bringing both of those to you each and every weekday now. So make sure you are subscribed to that page and continue to follow along with us all season. Also want to make sure you know about the email newsletter coming out for thelines.com with everything you need to know for all the sports that we are giving you guys picks and strategies and the like. So make sure you are checking out that newsletter. Nate and I are also dropping a parlay each week. That comes out on Fridays, and that is only coming out in that newsletter. So you do want to check that one out. We had a nice little 1-0 start to the parlays here as we had Jason Tatum 8 boards and Donnie Mitchell 25 points, and that cashed with ease. So we are looking to build off that 1-0 this week. Make sure you check out that newsletter. But for now, let's jump right into Nate's first play here for Monday.
Yeah, I'm going to look at a game with an astronomical total here. Atlanta at Memphis, 253.5 and rising. I think still take the Hawks, though, at plus 9.5, or maybe you can get it up to double digits here as people continue to hope for that Memphis home mojo to rediscover itself. But, I mean, last 0-4 ATS at home. Ja's questionable again here after they lose to San Antonio, and now it's the third in 4 nights for Memphis, who's done pretty well at a rest disadvantage, but I mean, it's just like some malaise here defensively. Like, they just don't defend anything. 125 defensive rating in their last 4 at home in February in general. 20, like second worst 3-point defense, giving up 124 a game, most assists per game, 32, and fourth most free throw attempts. So that's big trouble when you talk about a Trey-centric offense that, you know, was bottled up a little bit last time against OKC, more just outscored on that end. We'll get to Atlanta's defense in a minute here. But, I mean, Trey averaging 30 and 11 is a plus 31. His last 3 against Memphis. They've won 3 of 4 in Memphis dating back to 2020. This is kind of a little regional rivalry match, even though there's for some reason in different conferences. So I think Atlanta is up for it for sure. They've been off since Friday, so a little bit of a rest advantage for them. And OKC coming to town on Wednesday for Memphis. So if there is a little bit of a look ahead, that is a factor. It doesn't seem like they're going to play defense either way. They're just letting people waltz to the rim. That's the most surprising thing, is the third worst field goal percentage at the rim since the All-Star break, regardless of where they're playing for Memphis. So bye-bye any Triple J Defensive Player of the Year tickets that might still be out there. And then on the other end, yeah, they're bottom 10 in rim frequency in that same span. So that is not the black and blue Memphis Grizzlies that we've grown accustomed to. They haven't been shooting well. I mean, they're putting up a ton of points because they just play with this absurd pace. And yes, that does create some variance when you have two teams that are very fast paced. But I think Trey's just going to be spraying the ball around here, keeping the Hawks in it. They're a better fourth quarter team in this recent stretch here. Memphis will let you in it in terms of they give up the second most fourth quarter points on the season. And recently, yeah, their defensive rating has just been awful down the stretch. So if it's reasonably close, I think Atlanta's hanging around. We're talking about a team that, you know, prior to the road revenge spot with Miami, where they beat Miami came right back, crushed them. 5 straight covers on the road in 4 tough spots for Atlanta. At Indy, at Detroit, at Orlando, at the Knicks. Won 2 of those, but, you know, kept it really close in Indy and with the Knicks. They've covered in 7 of their last 10 as road dogs in that span. Scoring off free throws and off assisted field goals. Exactly what I just mentioned. Memphis is vulnerable with, and so it's just basically the question of, can they do a little bit of guarding here? Okongwu has solid defensive numbers in his last few against Triple J. Don't necessarily expect him to go off. Maybe we get a little bit more Capella, who's barely played here, but I think this is actually a pretty good matchup for Okongwu, just based on his skill set. And you get Dyson on Ja for really the first time in a full-time role. If Ja goes, like, keep in mind, yes, he is very much questionable. If not, you get Dyson on Desmond Bane, and you're just going to continue to force Memphis's role players to hit some threes, which they just have not done lately. The shooting has fallen off 32% from 3 in these last 4 home games. That's why they haven't covered. So yeah, you're going to need a barrage. Atlanta has given it up from 3 for sure, but like, they're going to actually have to knock them down for us to believe in Memphis. And plus 10-ish is just a lot for an Atlanta team that is still showing plenty of fight.
My first best bet looking at that Sac and Dallas game here. And we've got Sacramento as 2-point favorites. I'm going to take the faves here on the road, as Sacramento has definitely been coming into form, at least a lot more so than Dallas, which is still missing most of its key players, including PJ Washington, who won't be playing in this game. And if you look at these teams over the course of the last 5 to 10 games, not necessarily moving in opposite directions, but both definitely moving slightly differently here. Let's just say Sac is definitely, without Domas, not the same team, but I still think that they're better than Dallas. We'll see what's up with the Domas injury. It looks like he's probably going to be out for about a week or so. If he was in, I would easily say they're moving further apart from each other right now. But obviously with the Domas injury, Sac's now slowing down in terms of how well they seem to be playing. But we'll see. It's only been one game. Joval came in, and I do think that's a big reason why I'm happy to take Sac. Is Joval comes in and really just it's pretty seamless. Now, he's not the passer that Domas is. He's not anything that Domas is, rebounding, scoring, whatever, but he's good enough. And Domas has been phased out with the level of touches that he's had. He has not quite been as involved, which is going to happen when you add Zach LaVine to the squad. And now he wants the ball in his hands a ton and doesn't play the same way that De'Aaron Fox plays off of him. But they have proven that at the very least over the last 5 games, 10 games, they're in the top 10 in offensive rating. And the offense has been able to click at the very least because the sort of your turn, my turn style of basketball works when you have 3 really, really good guards that can break you down off of the dribble, with Malik Monk adding to the DeMar and Zach LaVine tandem there. And they haven't been playing faster necessarily, but their half-court offense has gone way up. They're in the top 5 in effective field goal percentage in the last 10. They're in the last in the top 5 in offensive rebound percentage, which is a big reason why I like them to continue winning with Joval coming in and continuing to be one of the better offensive rebounders in the league. The way that they've played, once again, with Joval not out there as much as Domas, but like I'm saying, Joval is going to play the same style. So the style that they've been playing is attack the paint and attack the mid-range. And it's the extended paint and it's the mid-range. They're not necessarily going all the way to the rim, but there's a lot of stuff coming from DeMar and Zach LaVine and Malik Monk by driving, either pulling up on the mid-range, especially DeMar, as we know, where they have been in the term mid-range frequency second most in the league over the last 10, as that's only gone up a bit with LaVine coming out there. And I think that'll continue with Joval playing in the dunker spot or out on the up top above the break, where he should be able to do stuff. But as far as the defense here for the Mavs, where they're good is above the break. That wing defense with Max Christie coming out and a few guys like Najee Marshall playing really good defense above the break and on the wings. That's where they've been best, but that's really not what you have to worry about quite as much with this form of the Kings. They're 27th now in terms of the frequency with which they're shooting above the break. It's a lot more corner threes and a lot more mid-range. And this Dallas defense is 25th in limiting mid-range points. So this is definitely going to be a situation where I think Sacks, their strengths, what they want to do, the focal points of their offense are going to be the weak spots for Dallas. And that's a good reason to take this Sac team -2.
Yeah, tricky line of the night here maybe is just like why are the Blazers underdogs at Philly? So split the unit, try to ride that wave. +140 on the money line, along with +3.5. Maybe you can get +4. It's just like, what has Philly done to get that kind of respect? I mean, I guess you should be favored at home against a team that just played overtime back to back. But I mean, Portland's just a lot better, a lot better than this team. And they happen to be the number 1 team against the spread on back-to-backs this season, 7-1-1, covering by 9 points per game. Philly is the second worst team as a home favorite, 1-13 against the spread. Let's just think about that for a second. They've covered once this season when they're a home favorite. And they've been 10 points per game below the spread. Pretty even mix of Embiid in there versus out. And now we know at least he's shut down. Paul George might not play tonight. I mean, I guess there's an argument to look at this the other side that, like, at least they know Embiid's not coming back. They can kind of rally. But the other side of that is like, well, they know the writing's on the wall. They're definitely not going anywhere in the playoffs. This season is a wasted one. And if things go awry like they did, just a week ago when they hosted Chicago and got absolutely destroyed at home by a team that is mostly playing young bucks and just trying to rebuild and just out there, playing free with house money. So I don't think that that's totally out of the question that Portland actually smacks them here. Yes, they went to overtime at Cleveland. It was a matinee at least, so that gives you a little bit of an extra rest here. Jeremy Grant might return after not playing last night. Klingon only played 11 minutes in that afternoon game. But Portland just doesn't sit dudes on back-to-backs. You look at their last 3, they've won their last 3 back-to-backs by double digits, in fact. including against Indy, which is impressive. Tumani Kamara was huge in that game, guarding Halliburton, guarding whoever, they wanted to throw him at, the Swiss Army knife defensively. He just fresh off shutting down Garland. Now he could potentially do a good job on Maxey, who was ice cold. And the Sixers managed to win and snap their losing streak against Golden State because they shot 60% from three. 58%, excuse me. Like, they still got outscored by 24 in the paint with Andre Drummond there starting. So that's not a reason to buy the Sixers for me. It's just like a one-game outlier, especially now when you go up against the number one three-point defense in February in Portland. A three-point defense that's been even better on back-to-backs and short rest. And it's a young team that, again, they just don't seem to have a huge problem with the turnaround. They've only lost to elite teams in these last 20 as Portland, basically. They're 14-6 straight up. They just, like, losing to Cleveland is a positive. In taking them to overtime is a positive. It's just a confidence boost. I don't see anything else on Portland's game log that would indicate that they've lost to even a mediocre team. Like, they lost to Denver twice, and like the resurrected Lakers with Luka. Like, it's not the Sixers, not a team that's just trying to hand away the 10th seed for the play-in spot, because they just don't have anything to play for at this point, and they're already looking at next season when maybe Embiid can get out there healthy. Just low vibes for Philly, so you might as well take the points, take the big time plus money.
Last pick here for best bets going to that Miami-Washington game in Florida. And we've got Washington on the road, but I'm taking an under on the 218.5. We've got no Jordan Poole. We've got no Malcolm Brogdon. The offense for Washington and even the pace, they're not the same team that they were earlier in the year before the trades. They are now looking at about 15th in pace in the league over the last 10 games, which is nowhere near what they're on the season. They're fourth on the season. They were like first on the season, around top three anyway. Until they've really slowed things down. And no Jordan Poole definitely impacts things a ton, as he's the one that helps them get out into the transition there. Their offensive rating has been 27th over that time frame, but their defense in the last 10 is at 19th. In the last in the last five is fourth best in terms of their D rating. They're playing bad teams, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but we won't give them the benefit of the doubt. But Miami, also not the best offensive rating. 19th on the season, 22nd over their last 10. And even their D rating hasn't been that good. But I'm not worried about it being good enough against this Washington team that is disorganized, right? Like, at best, it's disorganized. Chris Middleton is out there for about 20, 25 minutes. And when he's not out there, there's really no adult in the room, especially from the ball handling and playmaking standpoint. Miami is 30th in pace. And so they're going to be slowing this thing down at home, where they play just as slowly as they play anywhere else. But they've been better at home as well. So I do think they're going to control things. I'm not saying they're going to score as easily as they have been. I mean, yesterday, when they scored their 114 or whatever, 115 against the Knicks, whatever they ended with, it was in OT. And it was a big reason was Bam is going crazy, right? Bam was just absolutely on fire. I think he missed like 2 shots all game, which was annoying because I tried to go under with him. But more importantly, that's not what I expect to be replicated here. And interestingly, for both teams, they're getting to the free throw line a good amount. And both of these defenses are also good at limiting free throws. The Miami Heat here have actually been number 1 in free throw attempt rate over their last 10. But this Washington defense, limiting teams 9th best in terms of free throw attempt rate for their opponent. So I don't think this game's going to slow down or stop the clock, I should say. I think the clock will keep going, but the half court offenses will kind of be what prevails here, as neither team is getting into transition over their last 10 games with too much frequency. Both of them have tried on the season. They're pretty good, but this Miami Heat defense, 3rd best in terms of transition defense over its last 10. So I expect it to be slow and choppy, a decent amount of missed shots, but not a lot of time running off the clock, or a lot of time running off the clock, and not a lot of clock stoppage with the free throws. So that likes me to take an under here. But that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Definitely make sure to go ahead and subscribe to that channel. Continue to follow along with us and hit up that newsletter as well, so you don't miss that bonus parlay pick. And until we see you next, happy betting.